The psychology of fear, why we get scared and how to overcome it. Why do some fears paralyze us while others excite us? Let's uncover the psychology behind fear. Fear is a powerful emotion that has shaped human survival and behavior for thousands of years. From the moment early humans encountered predators, fear became an essential tool for detecting threats and staying alive. But today, fear extends far beyond physical dangers. It influences our thoughts, decisions, and even the way we interact with others. While fear is often seen as something negative, it serves an important biological purpose. It alerts us to potential threats, prepares our bodies for action, and helps us make quick decisions under pressure. However, when fear becomes overwhelming, it can limit our ability to live freely, causing stress, anxiety, and avoidance behaviors that hold us back. Interestingly, not all fears are bad. Many people actively seek fear in controlled environments like watching horror movies, riding roller coasters, or engaging in extreme sports. So, what makes the difference between a fear that paralyzes us and one that thrills us? And more importantly, how can we learn to manage our fears instead of letting them control us? In this video, we'll explore the science of fear, the different types of fear we experience, why we sometimes enjoy fear, and how we can train our minds to respond to fear in healthier ways. Stick around because by the end of this video, you may never look at fear the same way again. What happens in our brain when we feel afraid? Fear originates in the amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure in the brain responsible for processing emotions. When we encounter something that seems threatening, whether it's a snake in the grass or an upcoming presentation, the amygdala triggers a fight or flight response. This activates the sympathetic nervous system, releasing adrenaline and preparing our body to either confront or escape the perceived danger. At the same time, the hypothalamus and pituitary gland work together to release cortisol, the stress hormone. This increases our heart rate, sharpens our focus, and redirects energy from non-essential functions like digestion to muscles that can help us react quickly. The entire process happens in milliseconds, often before we're even consciously aware of the threat. Interestingly, our brain doesn't always distinguish between real and perceived threats. This is why someone can experience the same physical reactions to a horror movie as they would if they were in actual danger. The prefrontal cortex, the rational part of our brain, helps us assess whether a threat is real or imagined, but it doesn't always override the amygdala's immediate reaction. This explains why fear can sometimes be irrational, leading to phobias, anxiety, and avoidance behaviors. But understanding how the brain processes fear is the first step in learning to manage it. With the right techniques, we can train ourselves to reframe fearful situations and reduce overactive fear responses. Why do some fears make sense while others seem completely illogical? Fear can generally be categorized into three main types: rational fears, irrational fears, and conditioned fears. Rational fears are based on real threats, things like falling from a great height, being in a dangerous situation, or encountering a wild animal. These fears are useful because they help us avoid actual harm. Irrational fears, on the other hand, don't always have a logical basis. For example, someone might have an intense fear of clowns or buttons, even though they pose no real danger. These types of fears are often phobias, which develop from personal experiences, genetics, or even cultural influences. Some phobias, like fear of the dark, are evolutionary remnants from when darkness signified potential predators lurking nearby. Conditioned fears are learned through experience or association. A famous example is Pavlov's classical conditioning experiments, where animals were trained to associate a neutral stimulus with fear. In humans, this happens when a person experiences a traumatic event and develops a long-term fear related to it. A child who was once bitten by a dog, for instance, may grow up fearing all dogs, even friendly ones. These different types of fear influence our behaviors in significant ways. Some fears protect us while others limit us. Recognizing the type of fear we are experiencing is essential for overcoming unnecessary anxieties and reclaiming control over our thoughts and actions. Why do we enjoy horror movies, haunted houses, and extreme sports? For some people, fear is not something to be avoided, but something to be embraced. This is because of the way our brain processes fear in controlled environments. When we encounter a frightening but non-lethal situation, such as watching a scary movie or riding a roller coaster, our brain still triggers a fight or flight response. But with one major difference. Once we realize we are safe, we experience a rush of dopamine, the brain's feel-good chemical. Psychologists call this the excitation transfer theory. The heightened arousal caused by fear carries over into excitement, making the experience pleasurable. This is why adrenaline junkies seek out thrill-inducing activities like skydiving, or horror enthusiasts enjoy haunted houses. The mix of fear, excitement, and relief creates a psychological high. Interestingly, studies have shown that people who enjoy controlled fear experiences tend to have lower baseline anxiety levels. They use fear as a form of stress relief, training their bodies and minds to cope with high-pressure situations in a safe environment. But not everyone enjoys fear. Those with high levels of anxiety or trauma-related responses may find these experiences overwhelming rather than thrilling. This highlights how fear is deeply personal. What excites one person may terrify another. Why does fear influence the way we make decisions and interact with others? Fear isn't just an individual experience, it plays a key role in shaping society. Throughout history, fear has been used to control populations, inspire caution, and even drive social change. Fear of disease, for example, has influenced everything from public health policies to personal hygiene habits. Similarly, fear of failure can push individuals to work harder or prevent them from taking risks. Fear is also deeply connected to group behavior. In times of crisis, people often act out of fear, sometimes leading to mass hysteria or panic. The infamous Salem witch trials in the 1600s, for example, were fueled by fear, causing innocent people to be accused and executed. On a larger scale, political and media-driven fear can manipulate populations, causing unnecessary anxiety or promoting social division. At the same time, fear can serve as a motivator. Many of the world's greatest achievements were born out of fear, the fear of mediocrity, fear of failure, or fear of missing out. Athletes, entrepreneurs, and artists often use fear as fuel to push themselves beyond their limits. The key is learning to channel fear in a productive way rather than allowing it to dictate our choices. Understanding how fear influences our actions helps us recognize when we are being driven by irrational fears versus when fear is genuinely protecting us. Developing self-awareness allows us to respond to fear with logic rather than instinct alone, leading to better decision-making and emotional balance. Can we train ourselves to be less afraid? The good news is that fear is not permanent. The brain is capable of neuroplasticity, meaning it can be rewired to respond differently to fear triggers. Exposure therapy is one of the most effective ways to do this. It involves gradually exposing yourself to a feared object or situation in a safe environment until the fear response decreases. Breathing techniques and mindfulness exercises can also help. When fear strikes, the body tenses up, breathing becomes shallow, and the heart races. Deep breathing slows the heart rate and signals the brain that the threat is not immediate, reducing fear intensity. Meditation and visualization techniques allow people to mentally rehearse facing their fears, building confidence before encountering the real situation. Another technique is cognitive reframing, which involves changing the way you think about fear. Instead of viewing fear as a negative, it can be seen as a challenge or opportunity for growth. This mindset shift is common among successful people who embrace failure and setbacks as stepping stones to success. Finally, building emotional resilience through positive self-talk, support systems, and personal achievements helps rewire the brain for confidence rather than fear. The more we practice stepping outside our comfort zones, the easier it becomes to face fear head-on. Can fear actually make us stronger? Many of history's greatest leaders and innovators have used fear as a catalyst for personal and professional growth. Fear forces people to adapt, innovate, and push beyond their comfort zones. Some of the most successful individuals credit their fear of failure as the driving force behind their persistence and achievements. Studies show that overcoming fear builds mental resilience, making individuals more capable of handling stress and adversity. When people learn to face their fears, their confidence grows, and they become more comfortable with uncertainty, a valuable trait in both business and personal life. Fear also fosters creativity. When people are forced to think outside the box to overcome fear-based obstacles, they often discover new ways to solve problems. This is why fear, when harnessed correctly, can be a powerful motivator rather than a roadblock. Recognizing fear as a natural and sometimes beneficial force allows us to use it as a stepping stone rather than a barrier. By shifting our mindset and approaching fear as a challenge to be embraced, we transform it into a tool for growth. Fear is more than just an emotional response, it's a window into how our minds work, what we value, and how we adapt to challenges. Understanding fear allows us to recognize when it serves a purpose and when it holds us back. It teaches us about survival, risk, and personal growth. When fear is properly managed, it can become a tool for resilience. People who learn to confront and control their fears often develop stronger confidence, problem-solving skills, and emotional regulation. Facing fears can be a stepping stone to personal and professional success. By examining the science, psychology, and different manifestations of fear, we gain insight into how our brains shape our experiences. Whether we fear failure, rejection, or physical danger, we have the power to shift our perspective and take control of our reactions. Now that you understand the psychology of fear, what will you do differently? Are there fears in your life that hold you back? And if so, how can you start overcoming them? Share your experiences in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more deep dives into psychology and human behavior. And if you want to explore more topics on the mind, check out our other videos on how emotions shape our decisions. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.